Hey y'all, it's your girl, Dr. J, and I would like to welcome you back to or welcome you to my YouTube channel where you can let it flow with Dr. J. So, there has been something stirring in my spirit, and it relates to what people often call unanswered prayers. And when they say this, they are usually referring to prayers, supplications, or requests that have gone unanswered. And these words are typically used interchangeably to reference needs, circumstances, situations, or trials that occur in their lives that have created long suffering and has led to them being in a place of misery, doubt, uncertainty, frustration, and sometimes anger. Sometimes people start to go through the motions of believing that God doesn't care. He has given a deaf ear to them. He doesn't understand them or the things that they're going through, or that He has forgotten about them. For some people, unanswered prayers can lead to a place of desperation, which could result in them separating themselves from God because they feel that He hasn't shown up and they're desperate to do their own thing to make it happen because they believe that He's never going to step in and show up for them. And this is especially true when a person has been praying and waiting and praying while hoping that God will change their situation or perform a miracle in their lives. But the thing about unanswered prayers is that it can happen for many reasons. And some of those reasons are because of us. You see, God is a good father and he desires to meet our needs. He desires to bless us abundantly, to show up for us, and to do marvelous works in our lives. But sometimes we stand in the way of God doing all that he said and promised he would do. So, what I would like to do is unpack this for you by sharing a few reasons why our prayers may seem to go unanswered. First, there are times when we have too much gook, sin, and unnecessary things and people in our lives. And it makes it difficult for God to bless us while we are entertaining mess or allowing sin to make us drift farther and farther away from Him. We may be so entangled with the wrong things and the wrong people, and God needs us to break free of these things. He desires for us to let these things go, but we continue to dwell or remain in places where there is so much sin in our lives. And sometimes we do this even when we feel in our gut that we are going in the wrong direction, doing the wrong things, and allowing the wrong people to take up space in our lives. Sometimes we continue to do what we know is not right, yet there is this expectation that God is going to bless us anyway, just because He's God. While His word does say in Psalm 84:11 that the Lord will give grace and glory, and no good thing will He withhold, that does not mean that God is obligated to reward us for our sins. Again, he is a good father and he wants to bless us and to take care of us. But sometimes we are the ones standing in the way of our blessings and God doing everything that he desires to do in our lives and allowing us to be blessed in ways that we want to be blessed. Secondly, there are times when we simply lack the faith, trust, and hope in God that we need to have. And this is often evident in our words, actions, or inaction, how we treat God and what we believe or what we allow to take root in our minds and in our lives. Sometimes we are what James said in chapter 1, verses 7 through 8, when he says, "For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is double minded and unstable in all his ways." So, this simply means that a person is spiritually conflicted and unsettled in all their ways. Or, in other words, we are being wishy washy with our faith and our trust in God. So it's like a person having the kind of faith where today they believe in God and they believe that He will do it, and tomorrow, not quite sure. The kind of faith where their problems are magnified and made bigger than God. So they're idolizing those things. The kind of faith where today God is Jehovah Jireh, our provider, and tomorrow you don't even remember His name or His track record in your life. You see, God understands and He knows that in this life, we are going to face situations that test our faith, and we may struggle with this. We may have moments where it feels like we are so anxious, concerned, and desperate for a breakthrough that we really forget or overlook the fact that God is still here and He promised to show up and He promised to show up on time. We forget His track record sometimes of all the things that He's brought us through when we're going through this current or a new situation. But He knows that sometimes we will look at our lives and our situations through our own lens and not with spiritual eyes. And He knows that we'll start to feel like because we cannot see it, because it's not tangible, or because we have been waiting for so long that He can't do it or He just doesn't want to do it. But in Hebrews 11:1, it tells us that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And if we go a little bit further with this and consider Romans 8:24, and I'm paraphrasing this a bit, but it tells us that we were saved in hope, but hope that is seen is not hope, because why would we hope for what we can see? Doesn't make sense. So while we may not be able to see how God is working things out or what He's doing, we have to continue to have that faith, that hope, and that trust in God. So all three things, we have to continue to have that and to remember that He's going to do what He said He's going to do. We must remain in a space of keeping our minds and our eyes on God and believing that He's going to see us through. We cannot be like the waves of the sea moving to and fro in our faith and our trust in God. We must remember that these three things are very important and they are crucial to our faith walk. They are crucial to us getting to our destiny and really seeing the blessings that God has for us in our lives. You also have to think about it like this. God does understand that we may face challenges in this area. So, with all these three things, especially when we are dealing with times of long suffering, adversity, and tribulations, but He still needs us to stay the course and to take all of our cares, frustrations, hurt, that pain and anxiety, the brokenness, and even the loneliness, as well as the desperation for change or breakthrough that you may feel. You got to take it to Him in prayer and know that He's going to work everything out without a shadow of a doubt. He's going to work it out. Thirdly, some prayers go unanswered because our motives or intentions were not pure and they did not honor or please God when we asked Him. For example, I know people who have prayed and asked God to bless them with the car and the house of their dreams, a lot of money, and all types of material things so they could stunt or flex on their haters. Like they really wanted God to bless them and elevate them so they could show off and make their haters hate them even more. Like this was their actual prayer because they were tired of feeling like they were losing and everyone was getting blessed or coming up except them. But in those prayers, their intentions were not good. Yes, the Lord said He would make your enemies your footstool, but He did not say that He was going to give you everything you want or think you need so you can show off and be petty. He didn't say that He was a genie in a bottle that you could rub when someone has ticked you off, or when it looks like you're the only one who doesn't have the new luxury vehicle, the new house in a gated community, the husband, the wife, the children, the job making buku money, jewelry, shoes, purses, and all those other things. He did not say that He was going to allow you to use Him so you could stunt and make everyone envious of you. That's not what He said, nor is it what He meant by making your enemies your footstool. So, in instances like this, you have to check your motives. If the only reason why you want something is to make someone else jealous, to be petty, to flex or stunt, to show off, or to show someone up, then why should God answer those types of prayers? If the only reason why you want these blessings or these prayers answered is to spend money like it's growing on trees and to be on social media fronting like you got it like that, like life is perfect, like it's sweet, like it's all good over here, then God isn't going to answer those types of prayers. He knows the heart of every man and woman. So He already knew your heart posture, your motives, and your intentions before you prayed. And He knows what you would be like if He were to give you everything you asked for. God cannot be played or manipulated. So it is important that we check ourselves before coming to Him and asking Him for things when we know good and well our motives are not pure, our intentions are not pure. We're asking for these things with the wrong thoughts in our heads and the wrong feelings and things in our hearts. Finally, the last piece I would share is that sometimes the wait and long suffering is God's will. I know we don't like to hear that, but that is the truth. Sometimes it is necessary for us to wait or for there to be delays before God moves or before we see things shifting in our lives. And this in itself could be for various reasons. Sometimes he needs us to wait or to endure some things because where he is taking us will require more of us. Sometimes we need to build up our faith and our trust in him and our spiritual muscles. Sometimes we need to experience some things before God can truly use us as a vessel to bless or to be a testimony for his people. I mean, think about it like this. If you want to know how to successfully build a six-figure business from the ground up, you would not ask the person who has never owned a business before to help you, nor would you ask someone who has owned, let's say, five businesses and failed at every single one of them. There may be some things that they can share regarding what not to do, but if your question is, how do I build a successful six-figure business? You need to ask the right people. You need to surround yourself with people who have walked that path before and who have reached the level of success that you desire to achieve in your life. Or you can think about it this way: if a woman is having a baby or desires to have a baby, she needs to talk to someone who has experienced being pregnant before, someone who has experienced labor pains, a baby is jumping up and down on their bladder during the day and possibly at night. Someone who has experienced the afterbirth and understands the changes your body goes through and how you may feel mentally, emotionally, and physically being a new mom. Someone who has never been pregnant or given birth before cannot tell you what you need to know from experience. They may be able to tell you through someone else's lens or from books they have read, but they still cannot tell you from personal experience. In the same sense, if God desires to use us in certain ways, or if there's a specific purpose He has for our lives, which He always does, there are times when He needs us to experience some things before He can send us to be a testimony, a valuable resource, or a support system, or to join others in their fight when they're experiencing certain things. The other side of this is there are times when God needs to prepare the space for us or to shift or remove some things or people before we can transition in. For instance, when you are applying for a job, and let's say you're applying for a certain job at a specific company, but you have been rejected multiple times, or there seems to just never be any openings for what you desire to do, it'll start becoming frustrating and it may feel like, man, this will never happen. But if it is God's will for your life, it will happen. That's just the reality of it. Another layer to this is sometimes he needs to shake things up and remove people who he knows we do not need to cross paths with. Sometimes he needs to create that opportunity. So, create that job opportunity for you, create that new position or an opening by opening a door for another person in that role that you desire or that's meant for you to transition into their next so that you can move in. Sometimes he also needs to align all the details like the salary, the benefits, housing, and other support and resources before he can open that door for you. And then there are times when sometimes what we're praying for or what we're hoping for is not the level that God desires to bring us in at. Or maybe he is calling you higher so that you can have the influence and the authority that he needs you to have to accomplish what he needs you to do in that space. So maybe you're applying for the coordinator and that's what you have your eyes locked in on, but God is thinking bigger. He's thinking, no, I want you to come in as a director because I need you to have more influence in that space. So that's why those doors never open, or that's why it's never a position for that thing that you're looking for, because that's not what I desire for you, or that's not all that I desire for you to do or for you to be. Again, I will tell you, there are so many reasons why God makes us wait or why we experience things like delays, detours, long suffering, and even rejection. But the good thing is in Romans 8:28, it tells us that all things work together for our good. So while the rejection may hurt, the delays and detours may be uncomfortable and require sacrifice, and the wait may seem long and unbearable at times, we must still remember that God always has a plan and a purpose for our lives and all that we endure. So now that you understand some of the reasons why our prayers may go unanswered, I want you to reflect on the unanswered prayers in your life and ask yourself, do they fall into any one of the categories that I've shared? If they do, you can reflect on this message and read the scriptures that will be shared and ask God for guidance in your life. If you feel that your unanswered prayers did not fall into one of these categories, take your concerns to God in prayer and ask Him for clarity regarding the things you are seeking Him for. Ask Him to give you a fresh vision, a fresh perspective, a fresh anointing, and to reveal what He needs you to know for this season of your life. You can even ask Him to give you clarity on the season you are in so you know if this is a season of waiting, if it's a wilderness season, a purging season, a season of growth and opportunities, or something different. The last piece that I will leave you with is trust that God knows where you are, what you need, and how you feel. He knows everything you will experience in life. And while He may be silent at times, that does not mean that He is not working, nor does it mean that He has forgotten about you. Sometimes God is orchestrating things in the supernatural that requires more time and more shifting before the door is open for you. And that shifting could be taking place in us or in the space that He's taken us to, or even both. Just remember to stay in faith, keep your eyes and your thoughts on God, and in moments when it seems too much for you to bear, take it to God in prayer. All right, y'all. I hope this message blesses you and meets you at your point of need. Of course, I've dropped a few scriptures for you in the description. And as always, like, share, comment, and subscribe, y'all. And share it with your peeps again so they can subscribe too. Peace and love. It's your girl, Dr. J.